Tony, yes. Alright guys, what it do? We got an ex-con here, known as Miklo, for very obvious reasons. We'll be hiding his information,
His identity, yeah.
his identity.
And this is episode number 31 of Bloody Rootz Podkast. Good to
Yes,
be
sir.
here with you guys.
How you feeling, man?
A lot better than I was within the last 8 months.
Would you guys get coffee in prison or no?
Yeah, one of the biggest things on commissary is coffee. It's not like normal coffee. It's like the freeze dried instant shit, like the stuff that you just pour in the water and mix it together and it breaks down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how? I mean, were you
Keefy.
big on coffee or no?
I wasn't to begin with, just because it wasn't something that I needed to spend the money on. Because in prison, like the commissary and like all the shit that you get are all like bottom dollar gas station, prepackaged and pre-made. Everything's pre-cooked, or it's things that you look at a gas, like you can go to the store and find those pickles that they have, like the individual big pickles, like the hot pickles and the sour pickles and all that. Those things cost an incredible amount of money in jail. Like, and right now with the economy, I was watching in my 3.5 years of being gone, taxes and the cost of everything going up, and the pandemic did not help.
So even in prison, that affected prison then.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you can go into any coffee place nowadays, spend $4 to $5 on a cup of coffee, and in prison you're spending $4 to $5 on a bag of freeze dried, pre-done coffee that just dissolves into cold water, hot water, and you're spending. I don't know how a lot of people get their money in prison, but I know when I went away, a lot of it was my own money that I had left over, that I still had in the world, that I had to have my family go and liquidate out of bank accounts and get together and keep in cash to then be able to send to my books. You know what I mean? But not everybody has that how do I want to say it? That background, or they don't have people looking out for them like that. A lot of people
has that privilege, yeah.
No, yeah, and I have the most blessings and the most love for the people that stood by me through my time, my family, my significant other, friends and everything. It was good to have that, because being in a place like that and not having anybody, and all you have is yourself to deal with, the dark days and the bad thoughts and everything, it's detrimental on the mental health. It really is.
So you would say that your first couple months there were like the worst, for sure.
The worst thing about being, whether it be jail or prison, is I would say prison is easier than being in county jail. When you're sitting in county jail fighting a case, whether it be for gun charges, drug charges, assault and battery, it doesn't really matter anything, because you're not in the know. You're being strung along month to month, going court date to court date, with your destiny, your future in people's hands that are looking at you as a criminal. Looking at like, why should we give this guy benefit of the doubt, versus the next guy? And that's it really boils down to, I don't want to say God himself, but what's going to happen is going to happen one way or another. And I feel like depending on the energy you put in this world, the good you put in this world can counteract the bad. But when I first got arrested for the charges that I ended up being convicted of, I sat for roughly 9 months time in county jail in a cell, or not in a cell, but in a population pod that all you have is negativity around you. You have people that are looking at murder charges. You have people that are looking at petty theft. It's a wide variety, but you're all lumped into the same thing.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting there stressing about what could be, the not knowing is the worst part about being in jail. That's really what it boils down to.
Because it's not like you're constantly meeting with somebody like, oh, hey, this is what's going on with your case today. I'll be your liaison.
Luckily,
you're just sitting there in the unknown.
Yeah, and if you think about it, each court date, depending on how fast your court case is moving or what kind of shit you got going on, you're sitting for 25, 30, and then even more. If you get an extended court date to court date period of time, some guys weren't going to court for 60, 90 days. You know what I mean? And with the pandemic, luckily I got out of county jail before the state shut down, when the actual pandemic kicked off and was affected, by the calls that our governor made.
I gotta say, at least you got away from this whole shithole.
Well,
Fucking chaos.
It didn't really get any better, and I'll get into that after the county jail aspect. But yeah, going 28, 32 days a time where your life is basically all paperwork. You're getting looked at by the state. You're getting looked at by whether you have a public defender. Luckily, I had a paid attorney that I've used in prior instances that has skated me out of some shit. It has gotten me good deals and everything. But yeah, it's that time is rough because 9 times out of 10 your court dates don't really go in the positive until you either get a break, like damning evidence on the state side that whether it be improper process of evidence or improper use of policing. You know what I mean? Like there's many different technicalities that could either make it good or bad for you at any given time.
Yikes. So when you first go into jail or prison, I gotta really understand the difference between jail and prison.
Okay.
First, before I even ask this question.
So jail, which it's a broad term. It's the easiest used term for any type of incarceration. Jail, that's the pre-staging before prison. Going and doing a hard time in prison, that's after you've taken your conviction, you've taken your sentencing hearing, and whether, like for my own instance, I took a plea agreement that was coincided by the state's attorney or my prosecutor in DuPage County and my lawyer. They came together, they drew up an agreement, something that both parties were happy about. I mean, I wasn't happy about it, but it was the best that could have been done at that time based on my record and all of my priors. So when you sit in jail is it's dead space, it's dead time. It's you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything, you're basically and
you're waiting at the principal's office, huh? Waiting for detention.
It's like being put in timeout that there's no end in sight. Yeah. And the timeout that you're sitting in is with. Now, don't get me wrong. I've met a lot of good people in bad places, like such as jail and prison. Mm-hmm. But when you're sitting there trying to live your daily life with all of this negativity and all of these people around you that are not your friends, people that are willing to either snitch on you for doing some stupid shit in county lockup just to better themselves, you have to know how to navigate really ill-hearted people.
And how soon do you realize that you have to?
Oh, I mean, I've been involved in underworld ordeals for better part of a decade over. You know what I mean? So it's like I understand being an ex-drug dealer and being someone who had to deal with scummy people, and not everybody, not speaking on past clientele that I've had, dealing with people that are either addicts or people that are willing to say or do whatever they need to do to get whatever they want. Your bullshit meter gets very broad and very quickly. So it's, for me, I can sit in a room with people and have conversation or hang out, and I can tell who's really fake, who's really real, depending on how you come off. I can read people's energy. I know when energy in the room shifts. I mean, I know when someone has ulterior motives just because I've dealt with this kind of people for, I made a career, I made a lifestyle out of it.
So you're aware, you're conscious of the psychology that takes place just as much in the real world as much as in prison.
With the things that I've done, and I've always explained it like this, there's a line in life. You're either on one side of the line or you're on the other. Having been brought up in an upbringing of a normal home, and well, there's no such thing as normal, but being in a good upbringing with people like caring family and everything, I went down my own dark path because of the troubles that I've had at home, and I ended up choosing, the wrong way of living. And at that time, I thought I was living to the best of my ability. I thought I was doing the things that, I liked and what I wanted to do. But, having a side of underworld knowledge and having a side of real world knowledge, I'm able to decipher like the difference between what's good and bad. And it's hard. It takes time to cultivate these kinds of skills. But if you're going to be, an airheaded, oblivious drug dealer, you better be prepared to get robbed, taken, you know, killed. You know,
you gotta be the wolf. You gotta.
Yeah, you have. If it's kind of like when I'm out on my motorcycle, people would claim me to be as an asshole rider. Like I'm like not a proper rider.
Obnoxious.
You know, like I'm not gonna say that I abide by every law or speed limit, but if I don't take my own life and well-being into my hands, I'm going to get killed by someone texting and driving. It's the same way as me being a drug dealer or some type of illegal asset in this world. Well, if someone wants what I have and they get any type of information about the things that I'm doing, that's my weaknesses being portrayed out in the public eye.
Yeah.
If someone knows my inner circle or knows what's going on with my day-to-day movements, that they can access me at any type of given time. You know what I mean? Like, someone walks up on me with a gun, I have to choose if I'm prepared to get shot or I'm willing to take that fucking bullet to lose the things that I just worked extremely hard for.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a ruthless person by any given stretch of the imagination, but I promise you that if you push me to do something bad, and if it's me versus you, I hope your family has money to take care of you after the fact. Because if I don't,
medical expense,
It'll be dangerous if you have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
If your life is at risk. Yeah.
I never got into selling drugs like how most people do. I got into this game because I found that I was good with capitalistic business. I found that I understood the meaning of profit. I understood the meaning of loss. And I was very capable of handling my own business.
Dude, you're not, just from talking to you, you don't come off as a pretty naive drug dealer. Like, no, you seem sharp as fuck. You know what I mean? So, if you, knowing you as a drug dealer now, like, I would have to say I wouldn't see you being like and I don't know your history or I don't know how you started doing drugs. I never bought anything from you, obviously, but I wouldn't imagine you out in the street on the corner slanging, you know what I mean?
No.
I'd imagine you...
That's not how it works.
Yeah, no, dude. I would imagine you being, sending someone to do it for you, because I could just read that intellect off of you, dude. Like, you seem sharp as fuck, dude. Now, obviously, like you said, on that side of the... that side of the road, man, that game you play, you're playing with other players, dude.
Yeah.
So
you're not the only man.
Right there, it's like you're not. There's another sharp drug dealer just as yourself, and they might not be as honorable as you. So it's like a dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah. The atypical drug dealer, when any law-abiding citizen believes that they know what they know based off of whether it be social media, whether it be Hollywood. The atypical drug dealer is the sketchy-looking dude on the corner walking up to cars, handing off and taking money in return.
And you do see those, though.
Oh, yeah, no, that's still a very real thing. That happens every single day at every hour of the day.
For sure. Yeah, you'll be walking Chicago, dude, like...
Chicago, New York.
They'll be like, hey, bro, you want some weed, man? You want some weed? I got that good shit. And I'm just like, damn, bro, like, you just see me in the street, dude.
It happened to me one time. I was we're playing a soccer league out in Willowbrook. And I just pull up to the gas station. It was like 11 at night.
Yeah.
I pull up to the gas station, and this black dude pulls up, pulls the window down. He's like, hey, bro, you trying to fuck around? I'm like, nah, bro, I'm good.
Fuck around.
I'm like, I understood that he was talking about drugs. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm good.
See, the atypical idea, the consensus of drug dealing that most people think of is it comes from the urban, the ghettos, the housing... what do they call that?
The projects?
The projects, the Section 8 housing where, you can drive into the Cabrini Green areas of each city that, every major city. Yeah, there's going to be, organizations out there, but city policing is different from suburban policing. When you're in the suburbs, which I'm from the southwest suburbs of Chicago, if you want to go stand out on a public street in a white neighborhood and try and be that guy, you're probably going to get booked for loitering, or you're going to have some type of loitering or trespassing that's going to initiate police being brought to your presence.
You'll be fucked instantly.
That is true. You got to play it more safe in the suburbs, I would say.
What I did was I figured out that by camouflaging yourself in plain Jane, because since I left high school, I've always had some type of job. I've always worked, some type of, hard labor, blue collar-esque job. Now, I was doing things on the side after my hours of work that, would be deemed highly illegal by the laws and the legislature that we have in this country. But blending in with everyday life on the times that when I wasn't working and I was too busy to even need a job, but there were days I'm pulling in $1,000, $2,000, sometimes even $3,000 in cold cash. And I'm there used to be times that I would make $400 off the top of a transaction, and it took me 5 minutes to drive down the road. So do the math on $400 for 5 minutes.
Oh, dude, that the spike in your what's that happy
Serotonin?
chemical serotonin? It's like boom. You're like, fuck. Oh, am I gonna go work 9 to 5? Fuck no.
Go to your girl, be like, go buy your mama house, go buy your sister house.
And honestly, looking back on it, I've tried to do some of the math, and it's not even worth doing because it's asinine to think about the money that I've had. But like I mentioned earlier, when I started selling drugs, it was only in high school that I realized that I was able to take a product, turn it around, and my profits, I wasn't looking at the profits as the money side. I was looking at like the weed I was selling that I could smoke for free. Back when weed was still super taxed, 20 gram all the way up. You're spending $100 on 7 grams of weed. Well, I can try and make my way. You cultivate a friendship or a business relation with the people you're getting from, and when you show that you're true to what you say and true to how you are to these people, they get more comfortable. And then you start, you spend more and more time with these people doing this business. You're making them money, and they start dropping your pricing, which gets into like the wholesale distributor era, like a range.
So okay, so you're basically saying that you in a way build some sort of mutual relationship with these people, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so with the whole psychology topic we had, you have to play that role of psychology with them too.
Oh yeah.
Despite them being the people that are providing you and showing you companionship, right?
Yeah.
So at what point do you say like, fuck, like, I mean, you think that you guys are friends, but there's always still that risk that you fuck around, you're gonna find out, right?
Absolutely.
So like, do you ever like hang out with them? Well, would you ever hang out with them and be like, fuck, like, okay, we're cool and shit, we're working something out, we got something mutual going on, but if I do something, make the wrong move, like I might be at the end of their barrel, you know what I mean?
When you're living on what is technically the wrong side of society, and you're dealing with people that are prepared to do what it takes to either keep themselves safe, their family safe, their kids, you can't. It's hard to build a friendship or a bond off of business, because business is cut and dry. There's no gray areas.
It's not personal.
It's yes or no. Yeah. It's black and white. If you are infringing on someone's business that is illegal, well, the only mode of next step is usually acts of violence. That's how it works. Like there's been plenty of people that I've come to know and are still really good friends with that I've met through illegal business transactions. I've cultivated friendships, but I also understood that those people were different than most of the people that are just out there money. Because people take money just as serious as blood or friends. You know what I mean? It's if you keep someone from getting the money that they want, you now become the problem.
Yeah.
So you either have to understand that there is no long run friendship with this. Trying to think of the correct terminology to use here, but like
your associates.
Exactly. Like it's your friendships with these people are more so acquaintance style than true actual bonded friendship. You know what I mean? I got a multitude of friends that I have today that I only know and have been friends with because of business, transactions or brainstorming or partnerships in dealings. You know what I mean? But a lot of the people that I know that when we were younger and doing this shit, that was all we did. You know what I mean? That was what it was. Every day was wake up, get money. That was what it was.
And that's gotta be tricky, dude, because
where I went wrong was losing the sight of what I was doing as just me doing it for free, and then keeping all of the people that I care about around me that did like to partake in certain substances. I put the Better Business Bureau effort into my business. You know what I mean? I didn't want people. I wasn't just willing to do anything or sell anything to anybody just for a quick dime. You know what I mean? I didn't sell drugs to be, and people might look at me crazy for it, but I cared about the people that I served to.
And that's what fucked you?
Well,
Because
Well,
of
you
that,
cared about their satisfaction and their happiness,
No, and
right?
safety too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't going down for what do they call that? Drug-induced homicide. I wasn't going to be responsible for someone's death. If it took a little bit of extra effort on my part to make sure that the people that were coming back to me every single day were not in harm's way, other than their own. When I hand you something, yeah, it's on you to do with it. If you get pulled over or something, it's your choice whether you're going to tell on me or you're going to take your time and deal with it. But what it really boils down to is I cared for the people that I was selling to, because a lot of my customer bases were coming off of friendly referrals. People that put my information out there, that I allowed them to do so. But drugs sell themselves. You don't need to fucking have billboards for the shit like they have for.
They'll be
weed and
coming
stuff
back
now.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone appreciates how you handle your business, they feel safe. They don't feel like they're walking up to the sketchy gang member that's standing on a corner in front of a project, just trying to get something and get out of there. I did a lot of business with people that are business owners. I did a lot of business with adults. Like I'm one instance, there's I'm not going to name the strip club, but there is a strip club that I did business with a manager of said strip club, because I was referred to him by a friend of mine who's now deceased, R.I.P. My homie, but he put me in touch with this guy just because I was sitting in this guy's place of business, and we were hanging out in the back of this business, and I was basically protected by this guy's this is a legal business that's out in society. I could walk in and open up shop in the back, and whoever he had friends with, he could have come to the back door, front door. All it does is look like the business itself was a smoke shop. So it's, people are in and out. You're buying cigarettes, kids are coming in buying bowls and weed or whatever. But that getting back to the camouflaging in broad daylight, it's real easy when you think about it, because not a lot of people in society that are law-abiding members of society, their first think is to think that, hey, there's something sketchy going on. Most people are oblivious to this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's been times I've been in traffic with $15,000 worth of narcotics and controlled substances, whether it's in my backpack next to me or in the trunk of my car hidden in a false panel, and I would be in traffic next to police.
That's
Did
some
you ever get
crazy
nervous
shit.
as
Dude.
fuck?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, there's a level of nervousness, but when I would feel that anxiety or that anxiousness, it would turn into, okay, this is what's keeping me sharp. This is what's keeping me forward thinking and, not breaking the law while driving. Always use your turn signal, making sure your vehicle is up to date on maintenance, that you're not going to have these issues. You're going to get pulled over for a bogus taillight when you just came from your people. You know what I mean? No one wants to get pulled over with the kind of shit that I used to have.
And a lot of people easily slip on those little things, I would assume.
And don't get me wrong, I'm by no stretch of the imagination perfect. I would recognize the things that I was doing wrong, or I would take criticism from people saying like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. And, well, you're not going to tell me what to do, but if this is so broad daylight that people are telling me that I'm doing something incorrectly or I could do it better, I was willing to listen to that and evolve my business. Because there's, like I've said in the past, there's people that I made more money off of that are normal members of society, that are upstanding citizens in their community, than I have with the sketchy, scumbag people that are addicted to drugs and only live to get high.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, their money is good too, but it's all green and blue at the end of the day. But keeping the company you keep around you could be detrimental, or it could make you. I met a lot of people that aren't normal everyday, people you would assume to be a drug addict. People that are recreationally using harmful substances like cocaine or ketamine, or the only things that I stayed away from, that I capped myself at, was crack cocaine, heroin, and meth. I stayed away from those things because those things create a clientele that are more prone to do what they need to do to get the product from you. Whether they're nickel and diming you over, I only got this much. Can I get this though? I'll get you back. I'm good for it, man. You know, I'll get you next time. But that kind of shit, you know, you either have to accept that or you have to, you know, move on and cut them off. And one thing that I understood very early in business is money comes and goes. It'll always come and leave. How much money are you willing to, you know, to go after? But if you get greedy and you start running, you know, yourself in excessive amounts of time, like there were times when I was younger that I would stay up 3 to 4 days on end. I'm talking about no sleep, constant drug fueled awake.
Damn.
Just because that phone, my one main line, I've thrown burners out the window of my car. You know, I've gotten rid of phones just because I got paranoid. But when that phone constantly rings and it can't go off, because that's your business, that's your livelihood, that's your meals. Yeah. I mean, that's you paying your bills. You can't let that phone stop ringing. So if it stops ringing, like, you either have a problem or you're just not good at what you're doing.
You're not a good drug dealer. Like there's I've heard stories like from Joey Diaz and stuff like that where about bad drug dealers, like, well, like, hey, I need coke right now, and it's like 3 a.m. The guy's like, no, like, I don't sell coke at this time. It's like, oh, you're just a shitty drug dealer.
Yeah, and
availability is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joey Diaz might be wrong for that kind of, you know, what's the word?
Criticism, or
he might be wrong for that view, but that's his personal opinion, because drug dealers are people too. We're not machines. I mean, some of us are. I was at one point, but that was when I finally adapted and I said, okay, I'm doing this 100%. I've accepted my fate. I understand what's going to come of this, but I'm also so good at what I'm doing that I was more fueled by the next step, where my next, you know, leveling up was getting to be, starting from like for cocaine, for example. I was about 19 and cocaine is one of the harder markets to get into unless you were just brought into it. You know what I mean? Unless someone just opens that door for you. But I was picking up, you know, a gram of bullshit and splitting it with somebody for, you know, a half a gram a piece. Now, if you're selling $10 points, you're not making any money on that, and you're not even getting able to do it. So you're putting yourself in harm's way with either the police or, you know, people around you for nothing.
For a measly little...
For literally nothing. Like, if you buy a $60 gram of some cut up, you know, 20-30% pure cocaine, bar coke is what I call it, you know...
Jeez, that's 20% pure?
Yeah, oh yeah, by the...
That's terrible, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it, but when they go out and they buy cocaine, they're not buying cocaine. They're buying, like, a portion of cocaine.
And the rest is like what? Aspirin,
vitamins, fucking any literally.
At least they're getting vitamins.
So we cut in 50% vitamin C.
More vitamins now you fucking
exactly.
But
what I strived in business was, I enjoyed that satisfaction or that feeling of doing well,
pleasing the customer.
Yeah, and then chasing, you know, the next level in business.
You're an innovator, dude.
You're like,
yeah, it was.
You're Scarface, dude.
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, I can't.
This sucks.
I can't say all that, but I mean, I can tell you off the top of my head, there's 3 ways that I can tell you how pure your cocaine is, and one of them is just with simple touch. I can take a pinch of your cocaine and rub it in my fingers, and when the heat and the oils from your skin break it down, the residual, how much of that is still left on my finger from what is absorbed into my skin, I can tell you how good your shit is or not. You know, just off that.
So what? How does that work? So,
like, imagine going into someone's bag, taking your fingers and just going in and doing that and taking out what you have. When you rub it around, cocaine, when it breaks down inside your body, when it's, you know, the reason it's taken through the nasal passages is because it absorbs and it melts, it dissipates, and it gets taken into your bloodstream that way.
Yep.
But when you have when you have vitamins or, you know, supplements or whatever, I mean, there's a million different things that people use for that kind of shit. And I personally never needed to do that because I cultivated business based on the fact that I'm giving you the best that I can give you, that I can come across.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, after I had my feet in the game and I understood what was going on and what was good and what was bad, I wouldn't, you know, accept any less. I've had people that I worked for in the past that didn't even do the product themselves, only because they didn't enjoy doing drugs. but they loved the money that came with it, and they were more money based than customer clientele.
And those are probably the best in the business, probably, right?
Yeah, and there's I know some people that have been doing this shit their whole life. I'm talking this is a family trade.
They're just fly low, right? Like
dude, you guys have no idea the kind of shit that happens in broad daylight. The 8 to 5, 9 to 5 hours that people work daily jobs. You guys have no concept of what kind of shit happens in your communities at any given day. I know like certain areas and certain people that literally strive to only do illegal acts and criminality during the days that...
Dude, I'm sure doctors be doing cocaine on a surgery. Oh. They're trying to stay the fuck awake, dude.
I mean...
And they're
12-hour shifts.
What it comes down to is how good are you at what you do? That's really, where it's going to take you in business.
But I didn't realize, like, when it comes to, like, cocaine and stuff, like, in bars, like, I didn't realize, like, the whole dealing in bars till, I was in a position where I was in a bar and around people constantly.
Yeah.
And I got to realize, okay, this guy's a drug dealer. This guy's he's here every day.
Yeah.
At a certain time.
And you're like, this guy just doesn't get drunk.
And certain people are always there, too, when that guy's around. Yeah. And... and then
bars are
starting to get
atypically one of the best places for a drug dealer, especially if you get in the inner workings with the bar, if you're friends with the staff and you made good bonds and relationships with said people that are running this bar and they're okay with what you're doing. I mean, what bar owner wouldn't want a goddamn coke dealer in his bar?
They're gonna keep drinking.
That's making people drink till they close, and then they're trying to figure out where the move is after. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to put anyone's business out there. I'm not going to put any businesses by name out on this cast. But I will say there were plenty of people that were very okay, whether they wanted to look the other way and out of sight, out of mind, the whole ordeal.
Yeah.
But I promise you, when I have 17 to 30 people. 35 people that are all coming in at any given hours in the stretch of time, 9 times out of 10, I'd make them come into the business.
Oh, shit.
And make them sit down and have a drink. So if you can think about, let's say, average 25 people I sell to on any given night at a bar, if they had a good reason to not have to come in or not want to come in, then yeah, but I'm making you come on some type of property line where either police aren't supposed to be there, or if a cop does show up, there's no way to hide. You're not gonna just run up on me in a black and white cruiser while I'm walking out to somebody. I'm walking right the fuck back in. You can come try and get me out of that bar if you suspect me for anything.
Yeah.
But I promise you, I'm gonna be out the front door and down the block before you get out of that squad and in there.
Yeah.
Or I'm in a back room somewhere hiding. So it really boils down to it, but. Yeah, if I have 25 people that all come and see me and say 17 to 18 of them come inside for a drink, that's 17 to 18 drinks that just got sold at whatever, $4 to $5.
That's a lot of money for a bar.
$3 beers. And now if I'm not the only one doing that in that bar...
Well, how's that work? Is it territorial? Like, there was another man doing the same thing as you?
I never took territory. It's... Territory.
I don't think bars would work that way, right? Like,
no, you're on neutral ground at that point, because if you own that bar and you're doing that kind of business out of it, then yeah, there might be a fucking issue.
and the owner's a coke dealer.
Hey, man, what the fuck?
Yeah, but there has to be with selling drugs and doing that kind of shit. A lot of people's egos blow up, and I for sure am one of those people that I took that in stride. Because when you become the man, when you become the person that people are seeking out on a daily basis, you feel more so needed than wanted.
Do you feel untouchable by any extent?
Oh God!
Yeah.
When some of the days that I look back on, running around with a bulletproof vest on underneath my hoodie and an illegal custom-made gun on my waist that had no numbers or no tracking or anything to it, yeah, you feel untouchable. I know that I've probably hurt some of my friendships and some of my family relations with my attitude and with my ego that I had at one point in time, and it's a shock when you get it, especially for someone like me that I didn't grow up as the popular kid. I wasn't in the limelight. I was usually in the background at every party because I was either able to supply the party with the booze or I was able to supply the party with the weed or the whatever else as I got older. But becoming untouchable it's a fathomable idea. There's no such thing as untouchable. Whether you're the head of a fucking cartel or you're just the little guy pushing. What I noticed, what I still believe to this day is you can only break the law so many times before the law breaks you. There's only so many things that you can do on your day-to-day basis before one single instance wraps you up. Now, for some of the things that I've done, for the skeletons that I have in my past, in my closet, I am thankful I've only ever been to prison for drug dealing, because I would have gotten a whole hell of a lot more time with some of the things that I've been involved in, with some of the people that I know, some of the things that we've done. Drug dealing and distribution charges.
You're like sweating right now.
Yeah, it's that is.
I haven't offended you, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I've said in the past, I don't necessarily like being violent, but I have absolutely no problem getting physical if that's what it takes.
And I think, not even as like, even if you're not a criminal, I think we all do need to be that way. And not to an extent where you're going to commit crime, but to where people know.
There's a fine line between wolf and sheep.
Yeah.
If you want to be a wolf, you have to be, on top of what's going on around you. You can't walk through life oblivious with your shoes untied. You're going to fucking trip.
For sure.
Whether that be someone standing on your laces or someone tying your laces. You know what I mean? It really boils down to how do you want to navigate your life? Do you want to navigate your life as someone that's not in charge of their own life? Are you okay with taking orders and just going with the flow of your destiny? Or are you willing to just be that sheepish person? That comes down to your own personality and character. Everyone's different. Everyone operates different. People are brought up in different ways and they see life in different ways. For me, I come from a family of people that don't necessarily regard the law with the highest regard. I come from people that have had their own past mistakes and their own way of living. I can speak on myself and myself only when it really boils down to it, but I know that I was not raised with the right attitude towards the law, and that's not downplaying my parents in any way. That's just, as a child grows, they absorb information and what they see around them.
They've realized that there's like a lot of BS and bullshit.
Yeah.
They're not going to have a trust for society.
No.
For
not
the
one
people
bit.
in their lives, yeah.
So at the end of the day, everyone's going to live the way they want to live, but having that little bit of darkness in your mind from the things that you've seen, like I have terrible trust issues in my relationships with people, because I've spent the majority of my adult life looking over my shoulder thinking, who's going to come get me? Is it going to be the law? Is it going to be my friend stabbing me in the back? Is it, the people I call brothers around me that are willing to, steal from me? Now, thankfully, none of them have ever, double-crossed me or set me up for failure. And I'd say majority of that is because, one, I either had good friends or they understood how fucking crazy I am.
Yeah. They didn't get involved in your stuff and let you do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I had a lot of friends that wanted to make money like what I made, and I put a lot of people on. I understood early that.
But at that extent, the moment you put them onto that friendship, it's kind of done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if they fuck up a little bit, you're already like,
it's really hard to try and help your friends out with what you're doing when they're not capable or they don't have. If they're not willing to go all in something like this, you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out drug dealer. That's not how it works. You're either doing the fucking thing or you're not.
Yeah.
And I came to realize that, before I was even 21. So I made the decision to go all in, and a lot of people looked down on me for it because they said I was living, wrong. But as far as like helping my friends out, or when I diversified my product lines from just, weed in high school to getting into concentrates, and then, getting into the harder things as you start getting older and partying and getting out more in a public view with people, man, everyone does some type of fucking substance that affects them, whether it be caffeine, nicotine, everyone's got some type of vice.
Yep.
And I don't want to say I played on those vices, but when you have people that are looking for stuff around you, it's very easy to start broadening your horizon to be the go-to guy for everything. It's simple. It's You don't have people going, with 6 different people in their phone. If you're just the one guy, and that their next step is, hey, well, I got a guy that's got everything. Well, now you got 4 or 5 of their friends that are all putting together combination deals, and you're only dealing with the one person that you're comfortable with. I mean, I used to have accounts in major colleges all over, the Midwest and stretching out into other states outside of just Illinois. I used to run down to ISU with 10 grand worth of product, and I would go down there, spend a weekend, and I would, the people I was staying with, or
would they clean you out?
Oh my God, I don't know why people say college kids are broke. So that's bullshit.
No, they got parents funding them. Yeah.
Put it this way: I could go down to a college with $10,000 worth of product. I could sell half of it, come home with more than half sometimes, and still have $7,000 in a Crown Royal bag in small bills. I could have swore there was an ATM outside of one of my friends' apartments. That it was bad. I used to have to give people warnings like, don't start doing this cocaine, because I had a lot of people that used to come to me and say, hey, I'm buying this for me and someone else, me and my roommate, me and my friend, me and my, et cetera, whatever you want to call it. Well, I would, all right, well, here's your $80 gram of cocaine, fucking don't start playing with this stuff until you're either with that person that you've done, this transaction with, or you're going to be coming back really soon for another $80 gram, and I'm not going to give you a break on it because I warned you. And sure enough, 4 a.m. rolls around and I'm seeing the same person 2, sometimes even 3 times, depending on how bad they were into it. But
damn, is cocaine that fucking good or what, man? I never gave it a shot.
I mean, when you're playing with high purity rate, I've never myself ever gotten 100% pure cocaine, because that's not a thing. Cocaine is typically coming from South America, where it's easier for them to produce based on the climate and the cocoa leaves and shit. But what happens down there is that shit's turned into a paste and it's hardened, and that alone up here would be more than just a regular kilo. It would, whatever you want to call it, however much it is. But that shit is usually broken down several times and repacked by the organization or whoever is making that shit happen. They're
trying to make their money off of it.
Exactly. And cocaine is the number one thing that usually gets cut. That, heroin, those 2 things, the profit margins are so high for those kind of things, but it also comes with what your stamp of approval is. If you're just out here selling drugs to sell drugs and not caring about who's getting them or the people that you're selling to, like, yeah, fuck it, cut it. You'll make more money. But that wasn't who I was selling to. I wasn't selling to the general public. I had a very private clientele list that ranged from, adult, even when I was a kid, adults, like, people that are business owners, people that are
successful people.
Yes, successful, citizens in their society. And, what I figured out with, for instance, just cocaine, even if I didn't cut it, and I just sold it as the best product that I could, I didn't need a Yelp review. I didn't need advertisement saying, hey, I have, 70, 80, 90% pure cocaine. I would just say, this is what cocaine truly is. If you want to, if they would try mine and then maybe go to another person and be like, wow, that shit was trash compared to this. Well, yeah, because I'm not smacking it up with, laxative or crushed vitamin or trying to change
the shits after doing the line.
One of the,
oh fuck.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I came to find out was, to make $1 you got to lose a dime.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with not being greedy about it, and you're okay with maintaining a solid business relationship with your clientele, they're gonna come back to you because they feel safe in that place.
It'll last longer, yeah.
And I think successful people, they're less risky because obviously they're not going to throw away their success.
No.
So they're going to play it safe because they want someone safe as well as safe as they are. What I mean?
That too alone could hurt you, though, because if you have a clientele that has something to lose, now if they have a bad drug habit and they get fucked around and they found out, that could damage you because you're just their drug dealer. You know what I mean? You're not.
They'll toss you, huh?
Yeah, dude. There's people that I've sold to that make north of $100,000 a year, whether it be a lawyer, whether it be some type of corporate executive. I've sold to people that have things to lose. When you got nothing left to lose, it's a different story. You have your own damn self to blame for it. But when you're dealing with actual people that either have a family, they have they have a reputation that they've worked hard to cultivate. Yeah, they like doing drugs on the weekends. They like to go out to the bars or strip clubs or whatever and decompress. Whatever they want to do, that's fine by me.
Decompress with coke. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, that's how some people are. They look forward at the end of their work week. They look forward to going out to the bars and either chatting up with women or trying to find their one night stands or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
I've heard it from people, man. They're excited for the weekend. Do some cocaine.
That's crazy, dude.
It is crazy. It's fucking wild.
I didn't get to I cut my own self off, but like I said, for instance, I'll give you one example. There was a manager that he managed a strip club in Illinois, and the guy, I was referred to him off of my friend. Now this guy didn't haggle price. He didn't negotiate. All he said was, "Can you be the guy that when I call, can you supply?" And I said, "Yeah, but it's depending on the hour and the place. If you're making me come out of my safe zones where I deem my security is not there, that's when my price starts going up, especially if I'm delivering to you." But this guy would have me come to his his business, the strip club that he was at, and I wasn't 21. I used to walk in with a gun. I'd hop off my motorcycle. I wouldn't get patted down by security. I would get escorted to his office, and I'd give him what he wanted. And then next thing you know, he's got his people that are in there. He's giving it to people left and right, whether it be dancers, whether it be security, and he was doing his own thing inside of this business, completely unknown to the actual owners of the business.
Yeah,
it wasn't my place to fucking tell him how to do his shit, but when this guy, when I'm taxing this guy an extra $500 on the top of what this product actually costs to the normal man, just for me to delivering it, that money was coming back to him one way or another. He wasn't worried about the extra cost because as long as he got it there, he was still in control of his world.
Yeah, he had his own costs for it and what he was gonna sell it for.
Oh, he was fucking gonna break it the fuck up.
Yeah, but then those customers were gonna be there. More business for the place, like drinks.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Dude, that's a fucking crazy shit.
Yeah, dude. to be doing that at 19, 20, I think I was 20 going on 21. All I know is I was not legally obligated to be in an establishment serving alcohol at 21 years old. Or under 21 years old. That's I know for sure. But when you're walking in with a bulletproof vest on or, a gun on you and you have security, nodding their head because they know who you are because their boss has made it aware of who you are, you start getting doors open for you, like, and that's where we talked about the untouchable feeling. Being able to walk around in the public eye the way I used to was very dumb. It was very risky and very, uncoordinated at times.
Yeah.
But I still did it, and I did it to the best of my ability. I did it to what I thought was what I was capable of doing at that time. And yeah, I got away with it. And don't get it twisted. I wasn't just a drug dealer. There's many things that I've done dealing in that are I don't want to self-incriminate my things on the things that I haven't been caught doing, but there was a time when I was able to procure, whether it be ammo, weapons, bulletproof vests, stolen goods. There was when you live in the underworld, you become a part of a community that is purely based on, anonymity, or what do you have?
Anonymity.
Yeah, there you go. You gotta keep that tight knit. You need to keep your mouth shut. So for me, even doing this podcast with you guys, now that I'm retired and I'm completely out of the game, I have no stakes in the game. I got nothing left, to lose. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and give you guys light to everything that I've done because,
of course not.
Some of the people that I know, I was honored to work for. Honored to do business with because I took pride in what I did. It wasn't just because it was illegal didn't mean shit to me. I grew up not it's not that I had disrespect for the law. The law itself, yes. I'm a human being that if I'm gonna live a certain way, it doesn't matter if you're a federal agent, it doesn't matter if you're a state cop, it doesn't matter if you're a beat cop, doing parking meter shit. You ain't gonna tell me how to live.
If it's not affecting others' lives, like, negatively, like, why the fuck is it a problem?
Yeah, exactly.
But people can do whatever they want, eat whatever they want, drink, smoke, do whatever drug they want. It's up to them. Like, it's not. But if it is affecting the livelihood of others, then yes, that's a problem.
Exactly.
Well, people buy cheeseburgers up the ass, and they know they shouldn't eat cheeseburgers, then they die a week after.
They can't sue the
And
institution.
then you can't sue the burger place.
The only
I'm turning like this because I fucked up my neck last night, guys.
You're all stiff.
I'm like, you know. But dude, I had a couple other questions I wanted to ask you, and I will kind of lead back into you know, the whole prison system. When you go to prison, right? When you go to prison, do they automatically see you like, oh yeah, that's the fresh meat right there?
Oh yeah,
Like, this is the new guy in town.
absolutely.
And are they already planning, like, all right, he's gonna be so from what I know, I used to watch Gangland all the time, obviously, right?
Okay.
And I know that there were certain systems set in place in the prison system, right?
Okay.
So did you have that experience? Now, you don't have to go too much in depth, you know. Obviously, there's a lot of people in Chicago that understand. There's you know, several organizations within the prison system. When you go in there, is it about race still, or is it about just plain and simple gangs? If you're white, do you go to a certain gang, or do you go to a certain race gang, or
Well,
how does that work?
it really.
We back. Alright. So we left off with going into the prison system. How is the prison system divided? Is it like they portrayed in all these movies and, like, for example, Blood In, Blood Out and shit like that? Is it divided by race? I'm assuming depending on the region and the country you're in, it probably is. Or Chicago, is it divided by gangs?
I mean, yeah, you definitely have the presence of organizations, but nowadays, I think in like the early 2000s was when the feds finally came in and they started breaking down, like up until the late 90s, like state-run penitentiaries were not run by the state. It was run by, you know, the members that were in there, you know, the guys that were lifers, guys that were still tied in. And, you know, I'm affiliated with no one. I've claimed neutrality across the sides. I've got friends
So
across.
you could do that? Or you're at liberty of being neutral?
Yeah, I mean that's a whole thing. It's, you know, the terminology for people that aren't gang affiliated or, you know, race affiliated are neutrons.
Yeah.
And that's what I claimed. You know, I mean, when
Is there a risk with that?
there can be and there can't be. It's kind of like a two-way street. Like, if you get as a neutron, if you get too friendly with one group of people, all the other groups of people will be like, oh, well, he's not a fucking neutron. He's just, you know, hiding underneath the fact of not being, you know, recognized as what he is.
You gotta stay true as a neutron and
but
really not fuck with anybody.
One of the biggest things about being locked up, the more you stay to yourself, the less bullshit you're gonna endure. The less you're gonna get involved in, the less you're gonna be called upon for backing someone in an argument at a card table or something more severe. Like, I was approached by the Aryan Brotherhood when I was in one of the housing units that I was in. You know, I had them. My cellie was someone who was not affiliated before coming to prison, and then decided to, you know, get affiliated while in prison
With the Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah, with a faction. I'm just using Aryan Brotherhood as a broad spectrum because that society is built up across the country in different factions.
Yeah, even in the outside world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, you know, they wanted me. You know, I came in and I was working out. I was a big white guy. You know, I was 6 foot, 240 pounds. You know, I mean, I was someone that they viewed as an asset more than a brother.
Yeah, you were muscle.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I've been fat most of my life, but, like, you know, I'm still a solid human being. Like, I'm by no stretch of the imagination someone easy to fucking, you know, manhandle or take down. But, you know, yeah, they told me that and I laughed at them. I said, you got me fucked up. You think that I'm sitting in a goddamn prison for 23 hours a day. I'm in one singular cell, and you think that I'm going to coincide with you guys just because, you know, you guys think that my best interest would be joining your goofy ass clique of people? Like, going into prison or jail as a white man in this country, if you have never understood the idea of minority, or you've never had any experience with the term minority, you are the minority. You can look at any statistic, any numbers across this country and in the prisons. It's the Latino and the African American race that makes up, most of the incarcerated population. And as shitty as that is, that comes from old white man law. I mean, it is what it is. And being the minority in prison, it's hard to associate yourself with people that have no idea of your upbringing or who you are as a person. Like, when I figured out really quickly when being in prison, like when I left the COVID wing, when I was intaked at the prison that I was in, and got put in the general population, this is something new. I've never been, prison was, I've been in jail, I've done a couple of nights here and there. I've had to take, outside of fighting my case that sent me to prison, not being on bond and being actually held by the sheriff in their custody. I was on a wing that was with people that were on parole violations that have already been to prison, so I kind of had a little bit of a knowledge of what I was walking into, but it was something I've never done before. So there was that ultimate fear of not knowing. It's the not knowing what's going on around you that is more scary than actually seeing shit happen in front of you. So when I got down to prison, I was told by the people before that it's in my best interest to just stay out of the fray.
Really?
Mind your business. Keep your fucking head down.
But like you said, you can't be too friendly with specific people. You kind of have to be neutral with everybody.
Friendliness is either going to get you taken advantage of or worse.
So how do you do it? Like, to even like talking to people, how do you make it so that you're not looking like, oh, you're buddy with anybody?
I mean, as corny as it sounds, you kind of have to walk around with a puffed out chest and a bad attitude. If you come off too friendly, if you come off too communicative, or you give off the energy that you are just someone that could be stepped on or manipulated, a lot of people go into prison with fear of being in prison, and that alone is gonna correlate where your next movement down that path is gonna end up. You're either gonna be hugging someone's pocket, praying that someone is looking out for you, or you're gonna stand on your own 10 toes and handle your business when it comes to you.
Yep.
And I went to prison with only one objective, and that was coming home. Yeah, I met some friends. I met some really good people in prison, people that were honorable, people that that were really about what they were about.
They didn't deserve to be in prison, huh?
Well, I mean, everyone did something to get there. There wasn't many people that I came across that were like, no, I'm completely innocent, I didn't do this shit. A lot of people were like, after you take your time and there's nothing else to do other than sit and think on your ill bringings and your misgivings. Yeah, a lot of people were like, yeah, I did this shit. What of it? Like, I'm here, I'm doing my time. This is what happens when you sign up for this kind of way of life.
So what about the saying that there's a lot of innocent people in jail or in prison? What do you think about that? Is that bullshit? I
wouldn't say bullshit. There's a little, like they say, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Okay.
If you claim full-blown innocence, you are either someone that literally didn't do the crime, that got blackballed and done wrong by the justice system, because there were people that I've heard stories about getting exonerated. I mean, you see it in the news when someone does 20 years for a crime they didn't commit from a bogus confession by, hard screw turning cops, or, bogus evidence or planting. Yeah, I'm sure that I've came across plenty of people that shouldn't have been down for the crimes that they were involved with. But at the end of the day, it's more likely than not that they were there for whatever reason that they did. A lot of what I found in tight-knit organizations that are in prisons, someone gets murdered, there's suspects. There's if you commit a crime with your brothers, your people of your organization, whatever you claim to be, well, when murder one charges come down, it's you're only attached to this organization by your neighborhood or your friends or whatever. But when everyone gets cold feet and everyone starts thinking, oh, I can't do no life sentence in prison, well, that's when it turns on them. But if you got 4 or 5 people that were all in a car that shot someone and killed someone, well, guess what? Not only is there a shooter involved, but you are now accessory to murder, which is just as good as a murder 2 manslaughter charge. You're still going to go do some severe time for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I had a cellie that had no involvement in a murder that was, purely just there because he was with his people. And they gave his ass like 37 years because they fought the shit and lost. Like, imagine having to take almost 40 years of your life and throw it away just because you were somewhere at some time where some shit hit the fan.
It sucks. It shouldn't be that way.
And I gotta say that I've seen it happen where there was a shootout. You watch the guy shoot the fucking people. You don't think anything of it because the guy got away, right? But thank God that dude didn't kill that other person, you know?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I couldn't imagine being part of something where, like, someone got killed and I was within the bunch. Like, fuck, dude, that's fucking...
And
that's so terrifying, dude.
Don't let your name come up on record, because as soon as detectives fucking, get wind of you, well, you're now a possible... You're either a suspect or you're going to be leading information that points them in the direction of who they're actually going after. Now, that puts you in a very tight spot, because when you're in that interview room and you're either looking at freedom or you're looking at, life in prison, that's a moral that you have to fucking figure out on your own time. Because like with me, I got involved in what I was doing because I decided that I was okay with being 100% in. There was no 1 foot in, 1 foot out. There was never second guessing it. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a bad man, so I became the bad man. I wanted to go out and do bad shit. So
I don't know why I thought of cops, bad boys, bad boys.
Oh,
what
dude,
you gonna do?
That was my anthem. When I was a baby, my mom and dad still talk about watching Cops on Saturday nights when I was like 2-3 years old, dancing on the table in a diaper to the Cops theme song. But it's super ironic.
That's so funny because your dad hated Cops,
yeah.
bro.
Oh yeah, it's fucking ironic as shit. It's just one of those things. That's life for you. You know what I mean? You never know where you're gonna end up. And I actually remember watching an episode of Cops when I was a little bit older, and a dude who was on parole got stopped and was going back, he was going to end up back in prison. And I watched him cry on national television and on a dash cam because he was like, oh, come on, man, I'm on parole, this and that. I'm trying to turn my life around. But the guy had, drugs on him or whatever, weapon, so be it. I don't remember the super specifics, but I have a core memory from like 5-6 years old of how damaging being on parole and then getting wrapped up back in some shit and going back to prison after you've already come from there, because I did that. I lived that.
Yeah.
I went away on a case dating back to 2016 because I got pulled over in traffic for speeding. And now, like I mentioned earlier, like you have to sharpen your skills. You have to hone what you're doing to be as good as you can be.
And you're a human. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, and everyone makes mistakes. But the problem with it's criminals and police only have to get lucky once. We have, as a criminal, you have to be on top of your shit 100% of the time, because when you're not, you make that mistake. And that's the one single... Cops don't care about whether or not, you go to jail and stay in jail. They did their job. They put you in jail. It's up to the state and
they're doing their job for the
litigators.
day, and you came across them or not.
Yeah, but see, my case from 2016, I got caught with an illegal firearm. I was already... the FOID card I had prior to that had been revoked off of bogus weed charges from when I was 18, back before it was even decriminalized in this state or in this county, and it was a demise that was coming to me that I wasn't obligated, or I didn't want to accept. I enjoyed doing what I was doing because it made me happy. It made it made my days go by, and I didn't think about all the pain and all the trauma I have in my past from issues in my own family and just normal everyday life things that kids go through that not a lot of people touch on, or not
you
a lot
got
of
a
people
rush
speak.
out of it and it made you feel good.
The adrenaline, and I'm an adrenaline junkie as it is. I've done 200 miles an hour on motorcycles. I've done a lot of things that are adrenaline invoking, but doing what I've been doing, it was just something that I found that I was good at. It was like not having my parents to push me as a young child to figure out what I wanted to do or point me in the right direction or path, because they were never on a right path in their lives. They didn't know how to, my parents were young when they had me. Neither of them had their shit together by any stretch of the imagination. My dad tried. I know my mom, tried, but after a certain age, men at early ages going through puberty and shit, your hormones start getting out of balance. You start figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
And who I was still a mystery to me up until recent time. I never had, a solid path to find. I never had a career path that I was ever passionate about. Right now, I'm almost 30 years old, and I'm struggling to find out what I want to do with myself for the rest of my life to make some type of living for myself and my significant other.
I gotta say though, dude, I feel like you've probably always been a good person though, and I think that's who you are, a good person, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think where you got a little bit, entangled was you knew you wanted to be someone wealthy, and that just unfortunately happened to be, where you made some money.
Yeah.
So you knew you were a good person and all that, but you knew you want to be wealthy, and you came across an opportunity, and that happened to be the first opportunity. Because had it been something else where you were selling, I don't know, it could have been anything else within legal bounds. You could have been a badass salesperson. You could have been a great car salesman or something.
If I had a
And that
dollar,
would have been it, dude.
if I had a dollar for every time someone told me to go sell cars, I would fucking own like 7 car dealerships.
Yeah, dude, for all we know, I mean, that could have been it, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that's just
Let me
not the wrong guidance, but just it's just life, dude. You were just,
Yeah.
it was in your destiny. And if you believe in God, I don't
yeah.
know. It was probably in the books, dude, where it put you in that path, and then that's going to lead you to something else, dude. For all you know, you could still have that.
Let me put it to you like
innovation,
this. So before my parents had split and I was still, living at home and whatnot as an early child, think about being 6 years old. Where was your head at when you were in first grade? You know what I mean? Going into like second grade. Maybe it was third grade. All I know is I wrote a whatever paper or whatever homework assignment I had for the class that I was in for my teacher, and in what I was talking about was the word debt. The word, just a simple 4-letter word, debt. All of us as adults now understand what debt is.
Oh, yeah.
When I was 7 when I was 7 years old or so, give or take, early elementary age, I remember my parents arguing about debt or money or financial crisis. And my family's had money, we've lost money, we've had good times, we've had bad times, just like 99% of all the other families out there that struggle with not being prepared adults in their way of life. But for a 7-year-old to base an entire assignment using, I think I had to use like a word that was something that it was just a weird assignment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I knew what financial struggle was because I was living through it. So for my teacher actually pulled me aside when I turned in the assignment and she graded it, because not only did I get it was an A or B assignment that I received, but she was also concerned that a 7-year-old was able, out of all the other words that people choose or the kids chose in the class to base their assignment on, I stood out amongst everybody else because I used debt. Because I remember commercials talking about
That's
at the
a
time,
heavy
too.
word for that age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you stressed? Did you feel like you were probably stressed already about
Dude,
financial shit?
That was before I even knew what stress, anxiety, depression. That was long before that. I still had happy child innocence at that time. But I was also starting to come of age where I was recognizing my brain was actually making connection to daily life and issues at hand. But when you come home and you're trying to sleep and you got your parents arguing at late hours of the night, waking you up, and all you have to do is listen anxiously to the things that they're arguing about, I kept hearing this word debt, and then I started seeing it I started noticing and recognizing it on commercials, talking about bankruptcy and, every other, schmuck that tries to sell his advertisement as get you out of debt, help you with debt. Well, I realized that, my family had debt. I don't know what debt is, but I know it's bad. There's no good connotation with it.
Yeah.
And I wrote a whole ass fucking assignment about it, and my teacher was like concerned, like very concerned. Because I remember her keeping me after class one day at 3 o'clock when the bell rang, saying, "Hey, can we talk about this? Like, is home okay?" And I don't know what this word is. I just hear my mommy and daddy yelling about it, and I just know it's nothing good. And she's just like shook about it like a child.
She can't say anything to your parents. Like,
No, yeah,
And then
exactly.
she foretold the possibilities that can happen from that, dude.
Yeah, and it's every kid experiences trauma to some type of degree. You don't live with a family. You don't go through the normal way of life without that kind of shit makes you. It chisels your character. It turns you to be who the person you are.
And what it does is, like, yeah, it does that, but then that's when you get to that point when you're in adulthood where you realize, like, oh, fuck, I'm fucked up because of some of that trauma.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of not hold that as resentment towards the people that impinge that, or I don't know what kind of word, they kind of unwantingly left that trauma on you.
Yeah.
You have to let it go, and that's the stuff that holds you back in that time. Like when I say, like when you were drug dealing and doing all that bad shit, that shit was still in you, and you were holding on to it,
like subconsciously, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so the teacher probably, that's where she was concerned, because she's like, oh fuck,
this can really fuck somebody up.
Yeah. Dude, at an early age, I was always worrying about shit. My mom told me, long when I was a kid, like you don't have to be so negative. Like, you don't have to always see the glass half empty. Like, she was, concerned about the negativity that I had because I was only ever seeing the bad things in life. I was only recognizing bad. I was,
you realize the people that you loved, like, they weren't perfect, They had those issues,
Basically, experiencing the highs and lows of financial stability in a family, you can understand that no one wants to feel broke. No one wants to feel poor. No one wants to fucking eat ramen for dinner, you know what I mean? And I did that. So when I got to an age where 13, 14, 15, when my family, was split and divided and I couldn't count on anybody because I didn't know who to trust or who to go to, I had to make my own way in this life. And I told myself one fucking thing, and I am not going to be broke. I might not be wealthy, I might not be fucking rich, but I promise you I will have some type of safety net that is going to keep me from being in the realm of poor.
And I guess, like, in terms of, like, when the point where you have a family and shit like that, I feel like it's important too for parents to, because I experienced it myself, like, and it trickled down to now, like, as an adulthood, where I have, like, not a bad relationship with money, but my concept of money and focusing on it and obsessing over it, it's not good, and that can lead to you putting that on a kid and having them stressing over shit like that, when at the end of the day, that's not what a kid should be worried about.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
That's not a reality, dude.
They should understand what the value of $1 is, but they should not be stressed about when's the next check coming in.
Yeah.
But dude, that's where life is cruel. Life is it's a cruel place, dude, because you think like it's easier said than done in my opinion.
It is,
for this situation, because bro, like, unless you're born rich and you come from rich families and got that old money, kids are going to keep suffering. Kids are going to keep being traumatized by it. And some people, some parents are better at hiding that hardship than others.
Oh, yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it's no one's fault.
No.
It's just the situation they're put in. And the kids will be traumatized. And now they might make something good out of it, dude. Yeah. They might say, like, fuck, I grew up poor, I gotta go to school, be successful, and be rich.
That drive really sets people up for success.
Well, your drive was there, 100%.
Yep.
Now, you might have chosen the wrong path, the wrong opportunity. That's the first opportunity that came to your hand, dude, and you being the smart person you are, with the intellect you have.
Businessman,
Yeah, dude. It sucks, but that's what happened. Now, that's not to say, though, not to bring you down, because you still will 100% be able to use that hustling mentality.
Oh yeah,
and apply it to who you are now, who you want to become.
Right now, post-convicted felon. My biggest shout out goes to the woman that I'm with right now she's talked me through and talked me down off ledges. Like, I could literally start doing what I was doing the last 10 years tomorrow, and I promise you, it wouldn't take me longer than a couple weeks to start maintaining a clientele list that would literally pay my bills. Like I'm talking about mortgage notes, phone bill. I was that successful that when I came home even the second time, that I still had people in social media inboxes saying, hey, like, are you back? Are you, like, coming back? Do you have a new number? like what's going on with you?
Like, are you back?
Yeah. Like, are you back in the game? I'm just like, no, I'm not. This shit's done and over with.
But do you acknowledge that if you were to go back, it it would have an unhappy ending again, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's no escaping that for anybody. That would be your thing, right?
The pipe dream of everybody wanting to be Tony Montana and fucking, you know, and being that, it's absolute horseshit.
Well, the movie tells you, like, dude, like, look at how his life ended. He could have ended it a long time ago. It's kept going.
It's death or prison or both. It's, you know, it's I after sobering up and clearing my mind of the bullshit, being gone, as hard of a lesson as it was to learn the way I did it, I'm also a very hard-headed and stubborn person to begin with. There was no other way I was going to learn because, like I was mentioning my prior case that I actually took a conviction on and it had to go. I went and did the boot camp program through the state, and that was only it was a 4-month process. I was gone for just a little bit over like 6 months total. So it was a slap on the wrist. It was, you know, I looked at it improperly. That should have been my first, like, all right, stop. Right. This is it.
Like, thank God I got another chance.
Yeah, but that's exactly how I took it. I took it as, okay, I beat it again. Thanks. Shout out my lawyer. You know, big ups to the homie.
Yeah, I'm gonna hire you again. That's for sure.
But you know, I didn't realize that taking a felony conviction, you know, would be so detrimental on sending me back so harshly. And when I went away the first time, everybody, all my associates, all the people that I was really doing business with, like, I set them up to maintain my business while I was gone. And I gave them the keys to the castle. I brought them in on some shit that I shouldn't have, and I came home to absolute pandemonium. People were owing people money that shouldn't be owing those kind of people money. I came home and my empire was fucking destroyed. So I got pissed about it. And I started doing things that were out of my character, out of my normal balance of what my operation consisted of.
That business requires that kind of attitude.
So I started overlooking some of the things that I myself put in place, and I started getting greedy because I was trying to get where I was in a shorter amount. I spent years, sleepless days, sleepless nights, fucking an absolute asinine amount of time getting myself to where I was in the trade and in my criminal underworld that I existed in. And when I came home and I saw it all in shambles and shot to shit, like, I was fucking pissed. Like, I'm talking about some of the people that were doing numbers as big as me or bigger that I thought I could trust with handling my business. And I was gone for 6 fucking months. I almost came home in the same year. Like, it wasn't even a calendar change. Like, I missed it by like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I come home and I'm like, you guys fucking threw all this shit away. I had to go answer to people that I didn't want to fucking answer to.
Ooh, that's... You see, then when you're saying all this, I'm thinking about, like, the fucking show Ozarks. I know you watched it.
I've seen it, yeah.
But, like, you have to... If shit don't go right, it's your ass on the line.
Dude, the biggest...
That's scary
The biggest thing in the underworld is credibility. If you have no credibility, or if you can't have someone vouch for your credit, put them on your credit line to either get you into the door, or, you've spent... It's just like normal credit. You spend years with a credit card trying to get yourself up to a 700, 800, 900, whatever it caps at. But my credibility with criminality and everything, no one could fucking tell me I was not worth investing in. That's how I came to be in relation with some people that I can't even speak on right now because I may be out of the game, but there's people I know that are still very, very deeply tight-knit.
High profile.
Yeah, and there's some people that I know that, are more than capable of getting shit handled than, even myself.
Let me ask you this then. When you came back, were you scared of death at all or no?
No, not one bit. I took my time.
But were you, like, did you anticipate at all, like, oh, fuck, my ass could be on the line?
No. Well,
was it that bad?
The first time when I was only gone for the 6 months, that was like, okay, that was nerve-wracking because I put people in touch with the people that I cultivated, business relationships with that had no right to being in them or being in contact with these people. And, the only time while I was gone for this 3.5 years was my only fear was my family because I made no attempt to reach out to the people that I was doing business with that I answered to. People that are very capable of killing people. I was nervous for my family. I was nervous for my friends. I was nervous for a lot of things, but in my heart, I knew I stayed true to what I told people, and that was, you have nothing to worry about. If I get caught up, it ends with me. I'm not gonna take someone out of their fucking well. I'm not gonna make someone pay for my own sins. You know what I mean, I'm not gonna do that. I came up around elder family members, friends of my father, that also were involved in some of the same similar things that I got involved in. I was groomed to stand on my 10 toes and fucking if you fuck up, that's your fuck up.
You don't feel like that world doesn't really. I feel personally, from what I've seen, I feel like that world doesn't always respect that rule.
No.
Like now,
there's no
maybe at some point back then, family. I knew that like with the mafia, there was rules like the families don't get involved, the kids.
Yeah.
But like with the current thing going on in Mexico, like I've been like hearing of families getting killed and shit, like wives and shit. Like it's some scary shit. I don't feel like it's how. I think there's no more rules like that.
Well, there's a reason that the term "there's no loyalty amongst thieves" is a common said phrase. There's when people get involved, whether it's gang organizations or it's the mafia or whatever, there's the portrayal of brotherhood bonded by blood. There's got to be some camaraderie in that to make people feel like they're getting what they're not getting from their family or their friends or whatever life that they're in. Well, I mean, I can't speak for the next guy, and especially with how society is nowadays, there's so fucking lack of loyalty in the things that criminals are taking part in. I only did the things I did. I'm speaking on keeping my mouth shut and not throwing anyone underneath the bus or snitching on anybody, because I wouldn't be able to look at myself in a mirror for the rest of my life. I know I would have soiled my own conscience doing, giving up, people for saving my own ass. I was the one out running around, doing shit that I shouldn't have been doing.
You can't live with that guilt on you.
I have enough guilt for enough reasons in my life and in my head. There is no way that I would condemn another man for my sins. It's
part of the game, man.
Yeah, that's not how I was raised. That's not what I was taught and learned. You know what I mean? That's just not how shit works. I might be old school traditional with my ideals and morals and stuff, but obviously my family and friends were okay by the time I got home, even though I didn't make contact with the people I had to answer to throughout the entire time I was gone. There was no one I could trust enough to even third party a simple message to get to the people that I wasn't going to involve anyone. I wasn't going to get anyone harmed for that.
Nope. That's good, man. I got a question for you. So I read this book, and I'm always telling Hector about it. I'm like, dude,
I own the book.
Oh yeah. So how is it? Have you read it?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, right?
Yeah. It takes the past of like when it comes to dealing with authority and learning how to navigate
power.
Yeah, correct.
So this book was referred to me by a friend that did time also, right?
Okay.
And I want to tap into this because we brought up psychology. That was the first topic of this episode, as far as being a drug dealer and being in prison. Psychology's insanely important, I feel. Whether you're dealing with authorities in prison, like the COs and all that, or you're dealing with the head honchos in prison, or when you're out in the real world dealing with high-profile drug dealers, or even at some point mercenaries, sicarios, whatever. Did you read any books in prison or anything that helped you out? This person that referred to me this book did time in prison. He said that this book helped him out, and it's helped out plenty of other people in prison. And there's actually a series of books that help out people in prison, whether it's to stay clean or whether to stay ahead of the game with all these power moves being done in the real world and in prison. The book is called 48 Laws of Power, and there's also The Art of War. Now, 48 Laws of Power brings up the Art of War.
Yeah, it's mentioned. I read the 48 Laws of Power.
I read it too, and
it's a hard read for someone that isn't intellectually on top of what if you're not in touch with your own psyche, if you're not capable of being able to understand your own thought process, and you have to take a really deep reflection of yourself and who you are as a person to understand what you're reading, because it's a very monotone read. There's no thrilling aspects to the book itself. It just takes a view on what certain aspects in life are.
So you're naive. You're not gonna catch your own wrongdoings through this book. You're gonna read it and say, "Wow, what a dump of shit. This is so boring." But if you're someone that is trying to better yourself, trying to catch your flaws, oh, this is where I'm fucking up. Oh yeah, like I can see how this connects to what's going on in my life right now.
Oh yeah.
Cause dude, it's insane. So you read it? Did it help you out?
I would say that the time that I spent reading that book, I actually took a good amount of time to read it because that book is actually banned from being sent in to the prison systems. It's actually screened out and not allowed to be sent in because personnel associate that book with like almost well they deem it to be destructive, riot invoking, you know what I mean? They look at that book as it's like the enemy, you know what I mean? Like 48 Laws of Power. There's another series in that book that talks about like love life and like in dealing with relationships and
the Art of
shit.
Seduction.
I read that as well.
I'm reading that one too. Yeah.
So there's probably a good amount of that book, the 48 Laws I'm speaking on, that I either overlooked or didn't hit home enough to click. But a majority of that book, I saw a lot of each chapter in certain traits of my own, whether it be manipulation or just negative traits and qualities that I have, and a lot of it made me stop and think like, wow, I've picked up these traits and qualities purely based off of the life that I've been living. Like you can't, like I said earlier, you can't be oblivious. You can't be a sheep in a wolf's game.
Yeah.
But I could probably read that book 4 or 5 times and learn something new every time I read it. Just because that book holds a lot of power and it holds a lot of knowledge.
A lot of perspective too, because you could in my situation, I feel like I was on the victim side.
Okay.
I was too friendly. I always expected everyone to present their best side of themselves, and I was never like aware or in a state of like oh shit, I gotta watch out. This person might have double intentions, right?
Yeah.
I always thought everyone had the best intentions. I looked for the best of people, you know?
Yep.
And dude, in some cases, for example, like
that right there could get you killed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like for me, like in the society that I'm around, it won't get me killed, but metaphorically, yes.
Oh yeah.
I'm dead because people, boom,
before
they'll walk all over you. Yeah.
Now for you, yes, dude, you could easily get killed. You could probably even get raped or anything where you're put in a situation where your life is in danger, you're at risk. You're easily there. So this book easily helped me out in a different perspective, and helped you out in a different perspective, and it'll help out Hector in a different perspective. But did it help you navigate yourself around prison? Oh, but go ahead though.
No, because I noticed when I was like reading the book, it makes you also piece together like, okay, yeah, these are the bad qualities that I have.
Exactly.
These are like the where I am manipulative, I am deceptive.
You're like, fuck, I'm a narcissist. I didn't realize that.
Like, it puts you in check and shows you, okay, like you can either, if you're a good person, it puts you in check. If you're a fucking asshole and you're like, oh no, like this is,
it'll make you worse.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I'm gonna use this.
That's
for sure.
Take over. When I was speaking on the aspect of the prison system not approving that book to be sent in, that's the way that they're viewing it.
Because there's some cold motherfuckers in there.
Yeah.
But what do you think though? That would probably create like a yin yang effect. Like you'll get more people conscious of what's going on and being able to navigate themselves around those fucking those evil people.
Yeah.
And I feel like those evil people, dude, a lot of times they're already naive anyways. So a lot of the times, like, they probably won't even associate those negative traits with themselves.
No, yeah.
They might be like, oh, like, no, that's not me, because they're so far into their sociopathic behavior that, I don't think, like, if you're like a true hardcore narcissist, I feel like for you to reflect on your own evil ways will be a lot more difficult than if you're like, okay, well, I'm having these narcissistic traits, but I want to change that. I feel like, it's easier to revert that. But when you're already that far gone, dude, I feel like you might read it and you might be like, you know what I mean?
This is nonsense.
Yeah, like caca, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's Dude, I've met people in their 40s, 50s, 60s that have spent all of their adult life in the prison system, in and out, in and out, in and out, whether they were all there. A lot of the guys that spend hardcore time, I'm talking about like real deal lifers, people that are doing 20 plus years and then come out, they have more of a want or a need to not go and do that because they just lost that much time. There is not a singular dollar amount you can put on time taken from you via bad choices and going to prison. Time is precious. There's, I can't say that I was ever the wealthiest drug dealer around, but there were at some points any given day that I had a safe that I could keep 30 grand in small bills on that I could access whenever I wanted. Now, sure, legally I wasn't obligated to spend it because I would get audited or, there would be questions of how I came into this money working a dead end, 9 to 5 job that wasn't correlating with my finances. But reading the 48 Laws of Power really made me take a look at myself and see the negative aspects that I have ingrained in myself because I was living a certain way that called for being, bad. Like it called for if you don't do something about it, you're gonna get got. Like, you're gonna get taken advantage of. But I was not always like that. Early age in high school and stuff, my dealings were purely only so I didn't have to spend money on my high, smoking some weed or, going and going to a party with a couple cases of beer. I would make sure that was paid for so I too, at early ages, I expected the best out of people. I had what they call blind loyalty to people that didn't necessarily need it.
Exactly.
I'm loyal to the core. If I had a spirit animal, it'd probably be a damn pit bull because you could beat me, chew me up, spit me out. You could do whatever you want to me, but at a certain point, like I had no loss of sight of my loyalty to you. And there were people that took advantage of that in my early days. But as you start honing in skills and living every day dealing with people that are trying to one up you or trying to step all over you, like enough is enough. Like you need to change your perspective on life, and it may have been for the worse, but it got me to survive some of the places I've been in, some of the people I've met. You know what I mean? But yeah, the 48 Laws of Power is a very instrumental tool in really learning about yourself as a whole.
And that's a very general way of saying that. As far as prison goes, did it help you in prison, or what do you think? Or you think you already had that? Because from what you already told me, I feel like you kind of already had that mentality. Like you started, as soon as you got into that world of drugs, you probably started, finding your ways around them more and shit,
Yeah. Like I said earlier, with my time I spent in county dealing with people that have been in prison before I was ever, like my first time being in prison was not necessarily prison. It was just the boot camp program. Like, yeah, you're in prison. I spent 2 months, in Stateville, receiving, waiting to go to this program, but that was about as much prison as I had, and I was sectioned off in a part of the receiving center that wasn't like hardcore general population prison. It was just for the boot campers. So it was also people that have never been to prison before that are all going into this. Like the boot camp program, there were only 2 at the time when I went. You only go to the mother institution. You spend a day or two, a couple days in a what do they call that? It's like a sanctioned off wing that's specifically for you to go down there because you're not technically a part of the general population of prison. You're already on your path of going through the prison's boot camp program. So it's not a true, actual, like real deal prison experience. You know what I mean? It's gentrified as far as being like almost in a bubble. You're still in prison, but you're in a specific bubble that's keeping you from actually seeing what prison actually is because you're not in general population.
Yeah.
So
you were just a bunch of bad kids that are just as bad as you.
Yeah. So with my know-how and my trust issues and everything else, all the other things I could speak on, I went into prison knowing that I can't trust anybody. I can't put any faith in anybody, and you're not supposed to. You're literally in the worst of the worst detention. Like if anyone that's went to detention after school and you spent that hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever sitting in a classroom with all the other bad kids, you may have had friends in there, but I've met good people, I've met bad people, but I also never gave anyone an ounce of fucking trust at all while I was there. That other than like very few people, like some of the cellies that I had extended time with that I really clicked with and got along with, you get on some personal speak, you have nothing else to do in that cell other than make sure that your atmosphere is something, cordial. You know what I mean? You have a real bad time when you're in a cell with someone you don't get along with. You have whatever the square feet breaks down by an 8x12, there's no getting away from it. You got to hang a sheet to take a shit next to someone that's 6 feet away from you. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that splits your room for.
So if you guys start duking it out, what happens then? Do they separate you guys, or you guys just got to battle it out?
It depends. Thankfully, I never really had any bad cellies that I actually had to get into it with, other than like some verbal disagreements and stuff, and like checking some people. But yeah, I mean, if you get into a fight, the only way you're gonna get caught is if people snitch on you, which there's a lot of snitches in prison. Don't get that fucking twisted. There is more people telling on people in prison than there should be, only because they're bettering their own day-to-day life off of it. They get more play, they get a better job, And
that's for their interest.
Yeah, that doesn't go for everybody, but there's more so now in prison snitching than there ever has been. And I've only been in recent time, but some of the people that are in there right now wouldn't survive back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I spoke to a lot of old timers in there that have been gone for natural life. People that have been in prison for 30, 40 plus years that talk about these fucking kids. These aren't criminals. These are a bunch of punk ass kids that ended up doing some dumb shit because they wanted clout. That's really what it is nowadays. But I myself struggle even to this day. Being retired out of the game and trying to build relationships with people, I have trust issues and trauma that I associate with everything. It's just how I've been for so long that it's hard to break these bonds that my mind is chained to. You know what I mean?
Not only that, I think you carry that stigma with you because any people that come into that you run into, they're gonna be like, oh, that's that guy, and he did time.
Oh yeah.
So you're carrying that with you your whole life, but obviously the people that have always loved you and that shit's just
yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but it's the other people that really actually don't give a fuck about you, they're gonna make it a big deal.
With my experience, it's a 50-50 shot. If I was to clue people in on my background and my history, they're either gonna run from it or they're gonna get real intrigued about it and want to know more.
Yeah.
It's basically a hit or miss. There's the first time I came home, if I brought it up in conversation, even with women, even talking to, potential girlfriends, one night stands, whatever, they either were attracted to it or they were like, oof, never mind, have a good night. I'm
too much for them, man.
Yeah, and which I don't blame them for it. A lot of people associate prison and jail with what you see in the movies, Shawshank Redemption, that kind of shit. And I'm not saying it's not like that, but Hollywood bases their entire ideas and cinematic performances on the worst of the worst, the worst absolute ideals that could happen in prison. And my first month in general population, the first time I went out to yard, a dude got stabbed up with a pen. You know what I mean? Like a modified pen. So it was kind of eye opening. One of the nights that I woke up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, whatever, to take a piss, hopping down off my bunk. Yeah, I heard a motherfucker getting raped. And that was shell shocking.
How often would you hear people getting raped in jail?
It wasn't an everyday thing. You hear about it from wing to wing. There's rumors of it going on here or there, but when you actually hear something like that, someone getting sexually taken advantage of by a grown man, that's a little fetal position kind of like.
Fuck, do you cover your ears and shit?
No, it wasn't. It was just well, it's not happening to me.
God.
Kind of ordeal. So it's that's one thing that when I went into prison, I made very clear to people, because when you get in there and people don't know you, the best thing you could do is let your cellie speak for you. If you land in a cell with someone that's cool, that's has been on that cell block for a while, and they have their own ties with who's ever on that wing, there's no reason to be friendly or trying to be outgoing to meet people in prison. Stay to yourself, mind your business, disregard anything you hear or see, and you'll be all right. But if you make a good bond with your cellie, my first cellie I had in general population, he was, I don't remember his ranking as far as where he was on the street, but he was down for murder for, killing a rival gang member. And he was the only person of that organization on that wall. So he had his own, phone line. It was that organization's phone line. Him being the only one there, he could put whoever he wanted on it because it was his shit. It was what it was. But that dude kind of gave me a lot of insight on how to navigate properly through prison, and he was probably one of the better cellies I've ever had, probably top 3 at least. As soon as I got in there, I came down there with nothing. I came out of the COVID wing with no property, no nothing. I just landed, and he gave me some shirts, he gave me some some bullshit food and stuff, and looked out for me and made sure that I was straight. And that's more often than not what's happening, unless you just land in a cell with a shithead person. But shout out King Psycho, like that dude right there. He looked after me like someone that was caring. Like he was honorable to what he was, and never asked of anything in return or nothing. He was just that kind of person. And he did some shit he didn't deserve, or he definitely deserved because of the things that he did. But not everybody is hard up on being cold in prison. You know what I mean?
I've heard from people, right, that went to county, to Cook County, you could hear, it sounds like you're in hell.
Yeah.
You hear young guys screaming the top of their lungs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're in pain. They're getting either stabbed, raped.
It's going nuts, yeah.
They're just depressed. I mean, was there anything close to that over there, or does it depend? Like, some people are just more chill. Like, some prisons or jails
usually
are a little more chill.
By the time you get to prison, your fate has already been handed down. You're in the stage of you're out of the unknowing stage, and now you're in the know. Now you understand this is what you have to do. So it gets a little bit easier depending on who you are as a human being. Like, when I got my time, I didn't want that time. I wanted the least amount of time possible, but I knew I was going to prison. I knew at the end of the day.
You make your peace with whatever you gotta work with.
You have to. Otherwise, you're gonna mentally break down. You're gonna lose yourself, and you're gonna get lost in your own psyche. You know what I mean? It's gonna damage you, and it's not gonna be good for you in the long run. I made peace with the fact that I was going to prison as soon as those handcuffs clicked. I was already on parole, coming home from a sweet slap on the wrist. You know what I mean? I knew that it was over with. I was going back for how long? That was the question. But by the time you get to prison, usually most people at that time are already calmed down. They've, like you said, made peace with what they have to do, whether it be a long time or a short time. Some people are banking on the fact of appeals and trying to get back in the courtroom to try and negotiate a lesser sentence. And that's not really something that happens often, depending on your case. Like, with me taking a plea deal, I had to agree to the terms of not ever filing an appeal to bring myself back into the courtroom to renegotiate time or get a lesser, sentence, because that's just how it was. I got the best that I could at the time, and I ran with it.
Yep.
No one wants to hear taking 8 years. And in Illinois, they have statutes on time. It's 50%, 75%, 85%, and 100%. Your crime dictates your statute. I was a nonviolent offender, charged with a Class X felony. I was definitely above where anybody wants to be, but my charge carried a 6 to 30 year time period. That means at the minimum they could give me 6 years at 50%, which means I would have only done 3.
Yeah.
So, looking at being a prior felon on parole, I went into this fight with my pants around my ankles. There was nothing good. There was no reason for anybody to even play ball with me, because they had someone who was willing to not only go on a stand and say, I was buying drugs from him, but they also had, whatever they had against me to fucking nail me in the coffin. There was no reason they had to play ball, but, whether it been divine intervention, God, whatever I want to base, my blessings on, I got the best amount of time that I could for the things that I did, and I'm thankful for that.
And I honestly think you're sitting here today because of the fact that you kept that morality with you, and you didn't become a snitch or informant or something like that. Because I think if you would have gone that route, you probably wouldn't be here today.
No, absolutely not. I would have sooner have taken my own life before snitching. That's where I stand on.
Or somebody would have killed you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, one of the scariest things about being in the life that I was in is dealing with some of the people that are really about their business, and they will take life if that means they live to see another day. And not being able to reach out and not being able to say like, hey, this is what's going on to those people, every single day I lived in fear that my family was in harm's way. You know what I mean? Like the people that I got to doing business with when I was, when I first got in put in contact with them, and I was, I made that sit down happen. One of the requirements was the dude took a picture of my driver's license. And I agreed to it, just because I knew I was really in. Like I had a secure connection to the underworld.
That was a deposit right there.
Yeah,
Tell me,
here's where I live.
Tell me who you know. Tell me.
Secure I was with who I was as a person. Yeah. I knew at the end of the day.
I'm not gonna fuck you over.
Yeah, I told this guy, I'm like, look, you've probably dealt with a bunch, and the worst part was my people that I've been working for. When I met him, his brother was down for a white kid from the suburbs snitching on his older brother, and his older brother was really the one that was in charge of doing the damn things.
Fucking A.
So this dude went down and had to do 4 years of time for some fucking kid from the suburbs fucking him over.
Didn't take it serious.
And
they come from anywhere though. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of like fuckers in Chicago too. Even the hardest of hardest neighborhoods that.
Oh, dude.
Bro, snitching is gonna come. I feel like people don't think of the crime.
No.
Before they commit to it, like
everyone.
Oh fuck, I might go to jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's always the afterthought, because if you're not totally invested in what you're doing on the criminal side of things, if you just want to be that bad person for the clout, if you want to be, someone you're not, well, you really figure out who you're not when you're sitting in an interview room. I promise you that.
Yeah.
And my interview for this case lasted 7 or 8 seconds, because when I was in county, I requested information through the state police's Freedom of Information Act. It's redacted files. Any information that they have on you on your case or your ongoing case, they have to send it to you, but it's heavily redacted. It's almost like CIA, FBI, redaction. It's all black. It's just like the movies. And I received that information, and I still laugh about it to this day, because my interview, when they arrested me on the date that I was arrested and tried to get me to, turn over information and play ball with them, my interview lasted 7 seconds. I let the 2 special agents come in, sit down, one of them turned their phone on, and I let him get out when you're in a police interview and they initiate the interview, they start going through like the legal shit, and they're like, okay, this is special agent so-and-so with this agency, I'm here with this. By the time that guy turned on his phone, read his little spiel, it was like 7 or 8 seconds in, and he went to go ask me our first question. I said, no, lawyer. And the dude was like, really? Like, I'm giving you off the record right now the chance to really think about what you're doing.
Snitch.
Yeah, exactly. And I laughed at him. I said, you guys are gonna fucking hurt me more than anything you guys even have any idea. You just take me to county. I'm ready to go to intake.
Yeah, you knew what you were in.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna do it all the way.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, yeah, when
you're in too deep. You're in too deep.
Yeah.
You can't go there.
There's dude, when
but a lot of people go south, dude.
Yeah, they cave, but that's their demise. That's it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it took. I think like if you're doing the crime, dude, you gotta have the balls to like. If I were to commit a crime, I'd be like, all right, well, I chose this.
Yeah.
You snitch on the people that put you on. It's like, bro, you chose it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an outsider,
there was no one twisting my arm to get involved in things I did. There was no one that was, I forgot the word. There was no one that pushed me to do the things that I did other than my own self.
Exactly. So it would be some punk ass shit.
Yeah.
Snitching on these people because you chose that life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if someone forced you and you were being like manipulated and pressured and all that shit, then I gotta say I sided with you. I ain't gonna lie. But if you chose that life and you still like decided to snitch, it's like, bro, like, you chose it. You know what I mean? How can you do that?
I chose to do everything I've ever done in my life. No one has ever told me what to do, because I've never allowed another man. There's only 2 people I fear in this world. That's God himself and my father.
Yeah.
And when my father realized that he was not capable of parenting me anymore, he didn't know what else to do. There was no other. It was just.
He's like, oh fuck.
It was just hope for the best. It was out of sight, out of mind. That's why I never brought anything to my family. I never, brought danger to my own door until, like I said earlier, when I came out the first time and I started changing the way I was doing things, which is what got me wrapped up in shit so quickly, because I was getting ahead of myself and doing things out of character. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, let alone on parole to begin with. But I was doing things improperly. The things that I spent years and years teaching myself, cultivating and preparing myself for, I went against all of those and started doing things improperly. And that's what got me landed back in, the situation that I got landed in because of, me going against my own goddamn code.
Yeah.
But the one thing I stuck to is my morality. You could take my time, you could take my physical, body and lock me away. But for me to go on the rest of my life, at least with some type of little bit of happiness or a little bit of, okayness with myself, there was no way I would be able to tell on anybody. That's not how that was going. Because like I said, I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror. And if you can't be okay with who you are at the end of the day, who are you?
And I'm sure a lot of people fucking go out like that in prison. Because they it's like the Judas, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Judas killed himself after betraying Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a traitor goes through no matter what. It's a natural law of life. So don't snitch, bitch.
Yeah, guys. Like Tony said. Or no, not Tony, but so what was the main coke dealer and
don't you ever fuck me, Tony.
don't fuck me, Tony. Don't you ever try to fuck me.
Yeah.
MIKLO'S like, I never fuck anybody in my life.
Well, yeah, MIKLO, thank you for joining us, man. It was quite the conversation.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, sorry for these little pushy questions, man.
Not a problem with me.
But I hope everyone listens to this story and you don't fuck around and find out.
Yeah. If that terminology was coined up years ago, I would have been saying that shit off the rooftops.
Yeah, there you go. Learn your lesson, guys. Peace. Bloody Roots.
See y'all.